Hi everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the Academy Series guitars from Taylor. This model here is the A12. It has a cousin, if you will, which is the A10. The A12 is a grand concert body, and like the A10, it comes with a Sitka spruce top and a layered sapelli back and sides. I believe that's how that's pronounced. It's a mahogany wood from Africa. The scale length on this guitar is 24 7/8 inches. It's slightly smaller than a standard acoustic guitar. And this is a purely acoustic guitar. As of yet, there is no electronics in it, but we are going to go ahead and show you how to install an LR Baggs VTC element, which is a preamp end pin with a volume and tone control here in the sound hole. We're also going to go ahead and probably change out these plastic string pins and put some black ebony in here. And we'll also go ahead and put a set of Elixir custom light strings on it. Normally I would also go ahead and update the tuning pegs, but I think on this unit I'm just going to go ahead and leave the current die-cast models that they have. Turn ratio on these guys is 14:1. I usually go ahead and install 18:1 or better when I do guitar updates. So, I guess we can get started, show you how this sounds when we're all done with our changes and our upgrades. Alright, so the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is clear off the workspace, which we've done, so that we can have plenty of room to do the things we need to do. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and take my guitar neck cradle and utilize that to stabilize the guitar. You'll notice I've got the guitar laying on a towel so we prevent any kind of scratching of the back. So the first thing I'm going to do, kind of a boring evolution, is take the old strings off and remove the plastic pin. So to remove the strings somewhat expeditiously, I've got myself a string winder here. Just a matter of putting along the key and go ahead and loosening it up, each string up, until you can remove it from the peg. So now that we've removed the strings from the pegs, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pull the string pins down here on the bridge. And to do that, there's a couple ways of doing it, but what I've gone ahead and purchased and found is a little removal tool. Just get underneath the pin head and then push down on it on the bridge to go ahead and lift the pin out. And then once you've got that, it should be a matter of grabbing and wiggling the strings until all the strings come out. So what we'll do here is we'll just go ahead and wind these strings up into a circle, kind of tighten them on each other, and then go ahead and throw them away. Normally strings should be replaced about every 40 hours of playing, or if there's noticeable wear and tear on the string, corrosion from the oil from your hands or dirt or other things. Elixir strings are known to last about 3 times longer than normal strings. So on an acoustic guitar, the end pin is situated just to hold the strap. We'll be taking this off because this is where the end pin with the LR Baggs preamp will go into. The removal operation is relatively simple. Just a matter of unscrewing the end pin, and usually what will happen is you'll see the screw that goes into the block, and then there's a felt washer, and then there's the hole. This hole here is very important to us because this is going to be our guide hole as we start to drill the back of this guitar to make this hole wide enough to accept the end pin of the preamp. So how this is done, beside very carefully, is we hit a set of drill bits that increment in 1/32 increments, and we go ahead and start one drill bit at a time, increasing the size of the hole by 1/32 until the hole is approximately 1/2 inch or 12 millimeters wide to accept the LR Baggs element preamp end pin. So that's what we'll do, one bit at a time until we have the right size hole. Okay, So if everything works the way it was supposed to, that is the last time I need to expand the size of the hole. And we are now ready to go ahead and initially fit the preamp into the back of this guitar. So as I stated, what we'll be doing here is installing the LR Baggs Element Active System VTC, which is an undersaddle pickup and end-pin preamp with the volume and tone controls. See, I can read the box just as well as you guys can. Here it is in its entirety. We have the end-pin preamp with the hardware on the back that we'll be adjusting for the block in the back of the guitar. This will be the undersaddle pickup. And then of course we have the battery connection, which is here. And then we'll be mounting the volume and tone control buttons underneath the sound hole. Volume will be the one all the way forward, tone to the rear. And then we'll have to strategically place the battery pack inside the guitar somewhere. The battery is a 9-volt battery and it's estimated at 1,000 hours usage. I guess that depends, but that's what they rate the battery at. So the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking the end-pin preamp apart. There are 2 sizes of nuts and washers. This is the external nut. And that comes with, looks like just 1 washer, possibly 2. It comes with just the 1 washer, and the other 2 washers in my hand are going to go on the inside when we adjust it. So the first thing we're going to have to do, and it's going to be a trial and error, is we're going to have to adjust this nut here to make sure that the right amount of the end pin up here comes out of the guitar. So how we're going to do that, since most people's hands do not fit easily in a guitar body, I'm going to go ahead and use a 1/4-inch cable. Go ahead and use the other end. This 1/4-inch cable right here, I'm going to go ahead and insert it into the hole that I've drilled. And I'm going to fish it out of the sound hole. And I'm going to connect that to the Element VTC preamp end pin, and I'm going to guide it through the guitar body and eventually into the hole. And as you can see right here, it's going to require a little bit of adjustment. Now, for those of you that want to do this and their guitar has binding right here, it's a piece of plastic or ivory or something like that, splitting the 2 pieces of body, it would be advisable to put some piece of painter's tape or some other type of tape to protect this area. All right, so I pulled the end pin through, and right now, as far as I can tell, it looks like I've got enough spacing here to go ahead and set the end. What I have not done yet is go ahead and reapply the internal lock washer and flat washer, but again, we needed to make sure that our adjustment here was correct. So the way we're going to do this is there's the nut that we've adjusted. I'm going to go ahead and put the lock washer over that and the flat washer over that. Now I will feed the cable through, hook this up, and drag it through the guitar body one more time. So after a few attempts and adjustments, we finally think we have it correct. If you'll notice here, the large part of the end pin comes flush with the back of the body of the guitar. I've dragged it through using this cable. The flat washer, external flat washer, is already on there. So now what I've done is I've started to go ahead and put the nut onto the end pin, external part of the end pin. But what I'm going to do is I get a little bit closer. I'm going to apply just a small drop of 222 Loctite so that once this nut is down and tight, it'll have less of a tendency to come loosened as you remove and insert the strap every time you play. So there is the Loctite. And we'll go ahead and wipe up any extra that may have been there. Our next step is going to be to tighten down that nut. Well, the way that's done, inside the end pin, you'll see a hole. What I do with that is I stick a small Allen wrench in that hole. And then, using the proper open end wrench, which in this case is a 12 millimeter, go ahead and try to position that where I can tighten the nut without spinning the preamp inside the guitar body. Okay, so once the end pin has been properly adjusted, which will more than likely take most of the time of this type of installation, and you've got the washer and the nut tightened, you can then put the end pin cap onto the guitar and should complete that portion of the installation. And should look like that. I don't know if you can see that, if we can get our camera to zoom in, but you'll notice the end pin is almost flush with the tail piece. All right, so that completes that portion. Okay, these are cable retention devices that come with the kit. On this side is a removable sticky that you would go ahead and put on the side of your guitar or on the top of your guitar. And once they're in place and you got the cables run, you would just fold those back so that the cables would stay secure. More than likely what you want to do is always make it so that when you're holding a guitar, it would be in this position versus this position on the side walls. And then against the grain, if you will, of the cabling if you mount it on top of the guitar. Okay, so now that the end pin and the preamp are in, this is what remains. Once again, the cable that will go to the battery, the volume and tone control that'll mount in the sound hole, and our next project, which will be putting the under saddle pickup in. Now, if we can zoom into this point right here, you'll see that there is a black dot on the end of this pickup strand. This dot indicates which end is up, as they say. So when we go ahead and do the next modification to the bridge and we install this, we have to ensure that the black dot is up if we want to have the pickup work properly. On the other side is obviously no marking whatsoever. Now again, the element VTC that we're putting in is an all discrete end pin preamp, which we just installed. It has the pre-attached element pickup, which we're about to install. And what's important here is it fits both 3/32 inch and 1/8 inch saddle slots. Now the saddle slot is right here underneath this area here. So I personally don't know of any saddle slots that are either are more than just the 3/32 or the 1/8, if I said that properly. So most people should be okay with that, but it is something you should note, 3/32 and 1/8 inch. Inside the preamp is also the low frequency compressor. So next what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get ourselves a drill, and we're going to actually drill 2 holes. Looking inside the saddle right now, we can actually see a marker for a drill to go through, but I'm going to go ahead and put a hole on this end too, and when this is fed through, it's going to be fed where this black part here will actually go back into the body. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've got a 7/64 and a 9/64 inch drill bit here. I'm going to start with the smaller of the two, and we're going to go ahead and drill a hole into this guide hole that already exists below the bridge. But we're not going to be drilling it straight down. We're going to go off to an angle, something like this. Then I will probably go ahead and take the next size up and widen that hole so that we can go ahead and insert the pickup strand comfortably. After we come in here, I'm going to go ahead and do the same operation on this side. There is no guide hole, so I'm going to have to be a little bit careful to make sure I don't go through any kind of special binding or bracing, I should say, underneath the body here. My hole on this side looks pretty clear. I do have a piece of wood here that I might have to be concerned with. So let's go ahead and set up to do that. All right, so we got the drill bit in. We have gone through the body. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to lift the guitar up and see if we can actually focus in on that hole. No? All right, well, yeah, trust me, it's there. So now that that hole is there, I'm going to go ahead and switch bits here and just widen it just a touch. Okay, so what I've done now is I've gone ahead and put a small flashlight in the body of the guitar to backlight the hole that I started. Main purpose of that is to make sure that this next drill bit lines up and goes through at the same angle, which it did. So what I'm doing now is, as you can see, pulling the pickup through the initial hole. And I'm going to go ahead and pull it as much as I can for the time being. And the reason I'm doing that is so that I can, with the use of braille, if you will, adjust the other cables so that once we get ready to tie everything down, we're not tangled up with each other. I'll back this off before we do the final installation. Right now, my other cables are on the other side of this. Okay. As I said before, by feeling through the sound hole in the location that I want to drill the next hole to place the end of the pickup, I feel a bracing. So what I'm going to do there is I am going to go ahead and make a drill hole, but I am not going to make it a deep one. I don't want to destroy the integrity of that bracing in any way, shape, or form. So this is another one of those cases by feel. And to all you brain surgeons out there, brain surgery is nothing compared to this. I have a small hole started, but I have not gone through the wood yet of the bridge, so I'm going to go ahead and do a little deeper. And you'll feel the bit bite, so you'll know when you're starting to go deep again. And another way to verify this is just take the tip of the pickup and see how it sets in. And this is just about perfect the way it is. In fact, I'm not going to use the larger bit for this size, for this side. I'm just going to go ahead and give this another twist or two. And we'll call that just about completed. I'm going to go ahead and do another. What I'm doing, in case you're interested, is I'm looking at the length of that black mark, and I'm trying to put the black mark all the way into that hole. So that's what I'm using as a measuring stick, if you will. Just applying very light pressure to the drill as I make the hole a little bit deeper. And that should take care of the issue. Now again, the black tip is supposed to be up. Let's see, let's go ahead and use so there's basically the placement of the pickup, and it'll be held in place by the bone bridge. Okay, so once again, the pickup is laying inside the bridge, and the bone will go over it and we'll hold it down securely once we go ahead and put our strings in. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and place the battery pack. In this particular unit, the battery pouch comes apart from the Velcro, so I'm going to place this section here into the upper left-hand forward bout of the guitar with the battery pack facing toward the back, so replacement of the battery would be relatively easy. Doing so is relatively simple. There's a piece of double sticky back tape on the back of this first section, which obviously we'll remove and go ahead and place it into the guitar body. So now that I've gone ahead and put the base into the guitar and pressed it down onto the back of the wood, I'm going to go ahead and just mount the pouch on it. So our next step now is going to be to route the cables so that we can then mount the volume and tone control and then run the cable to the battery pouch and insert a battery. How we're going to do that, the kit comes with a set of 4 of these. They're basically cable holders. One side is double sticky back, which you tape off and place on the side or the top of the guitar. And the other side is a padded section with a flexible finger, I'll call it, and then you can just fold it over the cables to keep the cables out of the way. Just for neatness, a little bit on safety, so we'll go ahead and place a couple of these and then route some cables. All right, so as far as the volume and tone control module, I'm going to go ahead and mount that into the sound hole first. That'll give me a better estimation on how much cable I have left and where and how to route it through the guitar. Again, mounting this really couldn't be much easier. It is another piece of double sticky back tape. And then its placement is usually on what would be the top of the guitar when you're playing it, so that when it's in place, you can actually see the volume and tone and have easy access to adjusting both. So again, taking off the back of the tape, finding your placement, and applying pressure to mount the unit. So again, getting ready to route some cables, I thought we would go ahead and do some final connections. The first one's going to be adding the battery. I'm going to go ahead and connect the battery and insert it in the pouch so that the wire coming off the battery connector is facing toward what is the top of the guitar. And then I'm going to go ahead and insert the battery in the pouch and close the pouch to secure the battery. Now that all the cables are installed, all the devices with the cables are installed, I'm going to go ahead and route them accordingly and secure them to the guitar body. I also have a tendency personally to use small tie wraps to keep the bundles together. Okay, so now we have the pickup in, we have the volume and tone control in, we have the battery pack and the battery in, and we have all the wires secured inside the guitar. So the next thing is going to do is to put the strings back on. But another thing that I have opted on this guitar upgrade is to take the Taylor plastic composite pins and replace them with an ebony bridge pin. Now you'll notice that between these two pins, the head sizes are different, and the new ebony ones have a little dot of abalone in there. So what I'll do is I'll just place them in the guitar to give you a better sight showing the difference of both of these pins. Notice the new pins are a little bit more bulbous, if you will, have the small dot of abalone. The ebony, just like the actual bone pins, give the guitar a better sustain and ringing than plastic does. As with all my guitars, my strings, favorite strings to use are the Elixir Phosphorus Bronze Acoustic Custom Light, 11 to 52 being the size range, and that's what we'll also put on this guitar here. As I had mentioned before, there are upgrades to Taylor guitars, and what I have in my hand here are a set of gold Taylor tuners. These are 18:1 ratio. I will not be putting these on this guitar. I'm just showing you that you can go out and purchase additional components, and here's a like set of tuners in this box here, also from Taylor. Taylor also makes some good guitar care products. This is a guitar cleaner for a satin finish, which this guitar does have. And also a fretboard conditioner, which I use on all my guitars. Both of these products I use on my guitars. I also have the gloss cleaner for the other guitars that have that finish on it, and this conditioner for the fretboard. Both of these are excellent products and help with the life and the care and the playing quality of the guitar. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and start with the installation of the new strings. It's basically going to be putting the ball end into the hole, slipping the new pin in with the slotted edge forward and pressing down, and pulling out the slack of the string, and then riding the string up to the peg and inserting that, adjusting for some tightening width, and then tightening it up. So what I've done before installing the first string is I've gone ahead and applied some of that fretboard conditioner to the fretboard. This one is not in bad shape, but I've had a couple that have been so dry that it's literally soaked this stuff in like a sponge. It was amazing to watch. But again, after you do that, the difference in the playability is noticeable, believe it or not. So everyone has their own way of putting strings on. I'm sure there is a qualified correct way, but I'm going to go ahead and do it how I have basically always done it, and that's by putting the string into the tuner and then grabbing the string and pulling it back just a little over a fret length, and then bending the string in the opposite direction of which I'll be tightening it around the peg. What that allows me to do now is have a few turns on the peg as I tighten the string. And I'm going to use that tuning device that I showed you earlier, and will help get that on there a little bit quicker than normal. So I put the string on, I put a couple turns on it, still not in tune yet. But it is secure enough on the peg that I can now cut the excess string off of the peg. I normally tend to get about a millimeter or two away from the string, usually the width of the needle or the pliers, and then just cut it there. So now this one's ready to tune. Really needing it. Initially, as everyone knows, the strings will stretch for a while before they stay pretty much in tune through the rest of their life. All right, so this string right now is tuned to just slightly above E. I'm sure by the time we come back to it, it'll need tightening again. So that's the first one. So the top three strings are on and, at least for the moment, tuned. As they stretch, we'll have to go back. So now we'll go ahead and start the process for the remaining three strings. All right, so just installed the last string. I'm gonna go ahead and trim it, retune everything, and then check what our alignments look like. And then we get this thing upstairs and we can go ahead and test it out to make sure everything works the way it's supposed to. All right, so now that the strings are on, what I wanted to do is check the neck to see how close the strings are. And how I do that is I play the guitar, strum the strings, and then pull the headstock toward me until I hear the strings buzz. If it requires a lot of pressure, then more than likely the neck needs some adjustment. In this case, there was no adjustment required. In the case of this guitar, if that was needed, what we would do here is remove this small plastic plate, truss rod cover as it's called, Taylor truss rod adjustment tool, which has a little tiny Phillips on one end and an Allen on the other. And we would go ahead and slide that Allen over the nut. And then, depending on whether we needed to tighten or loosen, turn the screwdriver clockwise or counterclockwise. In this case, turning it toward us would tighten it. Turning it away from us would loosen it. So if I'm holding the guitar, turning it up toward me would tighten, turning it away from me would loosen. Again, this doesn't need any adjustment, but just thought we'd take the opportunity to show you. Some other makes of guitars have the adjustment for the truss rod in the sound hole. Same type of function where you would need an Allen wrench or a hex head to go ahead and adjust it, but in this case, turning it is just the opposite. So you would turn it down away from you to tighten it and up towards you to loosen it. So this is the Taylor Academy A12 with all of the work done to it. New strings, new ebony pins, and the insertion of the LR Baggs VTC Element preamp with volume and tone control. That was it in its acoustic mode. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to hook up a cable and play it electronically through our mixer system and amplifier. Okay, so I've got the cable hooked up. I'm playing it right now. Volume and tone are down to 0. So the volume now knob on this unit is the button closer to the neck. And this is the tone. All the way in one direction. Let's go down a few strings. This is tone in one direction. You'll notice it's a little bit softer. Volume all the way up. Now back to tone again. So a little bit brighter over here. Let's turn the volume down some. A little bit brighter here. Turn the volume down a little bit more. Take the tone the other way. And there you have it, a Taylor Academy A12 acoustic, now upgraded with an LR Baggs VTC element with a compression in the preamp, tone and volume in the sound hole. Thanks for watching. If you do decide to do this, make sure you have nothing else to do, nothing else to bother you, and a little bit of patience.